call my cousin Mom, that I finally realized my so-called dink husband had been hooking up with her all along. When I confronted him, he showed not a shred of guilt. If your village chief dad hadn't blocked me from going to college, I wouldn't have married you. Only a dog would have done that. My cousin smugly threw a paternity test in my face. Good thing your dad got run over and died. Otherwise, my son would still be calling you Mom. Before I even had a chance to get revenge, my husband falsely accused me of being mentally unstable and had me thrown into a psychiatric hospital. Less than 3 days later, I was euthanized. When I opened my eyes again, I sneered coldly. Let's see how you'll manage to get into college without me now. On the day the exam results were released, my ex-husband was completely dumbfounded. I walked into the fields holding a lunchbox, heading straight toward Ethan Sullivan, who was working the land. Shyly, I handed him the food. The nearby city youth started jeering and teasing. Wow, Ethan's got himself such a sweet little wife. Lucky guy. Ethan glanced around, his expression dazed, but when his eyes landed on me, they sharpened instantly. With a face full of disdain, he shoved me to the ground. How many times do I have to say it? I'm not going to marry you. Stop pestering me. Are you really that desperate for a man? The surrounding villagers erupted in shock. So it was Madison chasing him on her own? A girl throwing herself at a man like that? How shameless. She's disgraced our whole village, ruined our reputation. The sharp pain in my ankle and the rising storm of scornful voices confirmed that this wasn't a dream. I had truly been reborn. Seeing that the villagers were all attacking me and no one was paying attention to him, Ethan shamelessly bent down to pick up the lunchbox I'd dropped, intending to keep it. What a waste of food. I'll take it then. Wasting food is a sin. I tightened my grip on the box and refused to let him have it. I had hoped that, after being reborn, we could part on peaceful terms. He could walk his narrow bridge, and I'd take my own bright path. But I hadn't expected him to be so cruel. He knew how much a woman's reputation mattered in the countryside, yet he insisted on pinning the labels of desperation and man-chasing on me. And yet, before all this, we had been genuinely in love. Even the daily lunchboxes had started because Ethan had complained to me, asking me to bring him food. Fighting through the pain, I stood up and yanked the lunchbox back, then walked past him and handed it directly to Ryan Carter, who had been quietly working like a mute this whole time. This is for you. Everyone around was shocked by what I did. Even Ethan looked completely baffled. A moment later, he curled his lips with a mocking smirk. What now? You couldn't land me, so you're switching targets? Your standards must be pretty low. Any stray guy will do, huh? Ethan didn't want me, but seeing me show kindness to another man still made him bitter. His voice was dripping with sarcasm as he kept mocking us. I turned around and slapped him hard across the face. The blow was strong. My palm was still stinging a full minute later. Then I stepped back, covered my face, and began to cry. But my voice was loud and clear, so that every onlooker could hear every word. My dad said you city youth work hard and suffer a lot, so he asked me to bring this meat lunch to thank you all. I opened the box, revealing thick slices of pork belly, crispy fried anchovies, and fragrant rice. Everyone around swallowed hard, their eyes full of longing. Then I suddenly changed my tone and pointed straight at Ethan. I already gave you a porridge lunch. What, that wasn't enough? You were the one who begged me not to bring food to the other city youths. You said they were all bad people who didn't deserve meat. But I thought they deserved to eat too, so I didn't listen to you. And now you're trying to destroy my reputation, accusing me of liking you? I'm still a proper unmarried woman. And you've slandered me like this. I won't just sit back and take it. Ethan scratched his head, clearly not expecting me to turn the tables on him like that. But to everyone else, he just looked guilty, like his scheme had just been exposed. Then I dropped a bombshell. To protect my reputation, I won't be delivering food to any of you city youths anymore. As I said that, a flood of memories from my past life surged up. Over 30 years of working like a mule, raising a child that wasn't even mine, only to end up dying like a stray on the street. Even my father hadn't met a peaceful end. The sorrow rose in my chest, and I began to cry harder and harder. In the end, I collapsed on the ground, crying and passed out. The others, seeing how heartbroken and sincere I looked, completely believed everything I had said. Instead, it was Ethan Sullivan who, in their eyes, became the embodiment of a despicable, selfish man. When I finally regained consciousness, I found myself lying in bed. My dad was sitting beside me, covering his face and sobbing. "Madison, my baby girl." "Dad, I'm not dead yet," I whispered. As soon as he saw me wake up, his face lit up with joy. But something clicked in my mind, and I asked urgently, "Dad, was it Ethan who brought me back?" When he told me it was Ryan Carter, I let out a sigh of relief. Reborn or not, I had no desire to have even the slightest connection with that heartless bastard. But my dad misunderstood, thinking I was still hung up on Ethan. His face immediately darkened, and after a long pause, he spoke carefully. "Sweetheart, Ethan is prideful and arrogant. As long as I'm around, I can still keep him in check a little. But if I'm not here anymore..." Seeing tears stream down my face, he quickly softened. Okay, don't cry. If you really want to marry him, I'll give up my old bones to make it happen for you." I hugged his arm tightly. "I'll listen to you, Dad. I don't want to marry him." In my previous life, I had been utterly bewitched by Ethan. I swore I'd marry no one else. But Dad, thinking that Ryan, with his strong build and capable nature, was a much better match, tried to talk me out of it. Still, I was so blinded that I threatened to die if I couldn't marry Ethan. Left with no choice, Dad eventually gave in. To ensure my happiness, Dad gave Ethan the village's only college placement slot. The other city youths all had to take the college entrance exam, but Ethan got his spot thanks to Dad's generosity. In return, Ethan repaid him with betrayal, twisting the story and claiming Dad had forced him to marry me by dangling the college slot over his head. Later, he even threatened to divorce me and expose the truth unless Dad agreed to keep it quiet. Dad, wanting to protect my happiness, went alone to the highway and got himself hit by a car. What he didn't know was that soon after, I too was killed by Ethan. And Ethan walked away with over $1 million from Dad's accidental death insurance. I told Dad everything, how Ethan seduced me, destroyed my reputation, and ultimately ruined both our lives. Furious, Dad slammed his palm on the table so hard it shattered. "That bastard! How dare he treat my daughter like this? I don't care if I'm just a village chief, there's no way I'm letting him get away with it." I gently tried to calm him down. "Don't worry, Dad. You don't need to do anything. Evil people will get their punishment. All we have to do is watch." Most of the city youth sent to the countryside were useless at farm work, yet the more they worked, the better they ate. Because of that, they hadn't had wheat or meat in ages. Ethan's selfish behavior had cost them the meat they were so desperate for. There's no way they'd just let it slide. I leaned in and whispered a plan into Dad's ear. After listening, he gave me a big thumbs up. "That's my girl. Brilliant." Once I had recovered, I casually strolled over to the city youth dorms. Ethan eagerly volunteered to cook dinner that night, but others responded with thinly veiled sarcasm. "No thanks, we're not trying to get poisoned." A few of the youths huddled together to chat, but the moment Ethan approached, they scattered like birds. After a few days of getting cold shoulders, Ethan finally lost it. He threw his cap down and cursed. "I'm a future college student, damn it, you idiots with your dog eyes can't see worth shit. You'll regret this." In my past life, Ethan had sucked up to all the other youths like some social butterfly. A few of them later made it big and helped him climb the ladder. This time, I was determined to cut off his wings before they could grow. No allies, no favors. I asked Dad to assign him the nastiest jobs in the entire village, cleaning out latrines and feeding pigs. Ethan barely lasted a day. His clothes were caked with filth, and the stench coming off him was so foul, anyone who got close instinctively held their noses and ran away. In his previous life, Ethan had been among the first batch of college students to get state-assigned jobs. He spent his entire career in an office, never lifting a finger. He saw himself as superior, too noble for menial labor, and kept shouting about how he was destined for college to avoid farm work. The villagers and other city youths all thought he'd gone mad, because at that time, no one knew college entrance exams were coming back. College still felt like a distant dream to them, everyone except one person, my cousin's lover, and the very who'd helped Ethan destroy me. She firmly believed Ethan had a bright future. while the rest of the group only wanted to stay as far away from Ethan as possible. Only my cousin, Emily, stayed faithfully by Ethan's side. She wouldn't leave him and even snatched the manure shovel from his hands, insisting she'd help with the dirty work. But Ethan flatly rejected her, righteously saying, "Men and women should keep their distance. This could cause misunderstandings." Emily's eyes welled up with hurt. "I tried so hard to make you look good in front of Madison, so she'd fall for you and get her dad's support. Now that she doesn't love you anymore, can't you at least think about me?" So that was it. Ethan had approached Emily in the beginning just to get close to me, to make me fall in love with him so he could secure a return to city quota. But he didn't expect the reinstatement of the college entrance exam to come before that. When he did get into college, he couldn't bring himself to dump his rural wife for the sake of his reputation. Still, he resented me for it and took a mistress to humiliate me. In my past life, I had protected his pride and never told him his grades weren't even close to passing. The college slot was something my dad gave him. That unearned success filled him with false confidence, made him believe his knowledge alone was enough. He wanted nothing more to do with a village girl like Emily. In his eyes, she was just an illiterate bumpkin, not worthy of a future college graduate like him. Emily didn't know his real thoughts. She was still dreaming of marrying him. Twisting her fingers shyly, she said, "Besides, I already belong to you." My body went stiff. So they'd already slept together. Ethan showed no emotion. "Just because we slept together, does that mean I have to marry you?" Emily burst into tears and ran away. I slipped away too, but on the road back I ran into Ryan Carter, who was still hard at work. While the other city youths were relaxing under the shade, Ryan was under the blazing sun, digging and planting, sweat pouring down his muscular body in steady streams. I felt my mouth go dry just watching him. I was going to walk away, but couldn't help remembering what had happened in my past life. Back then, my dad had asked me to share the news with the city youths about the reinstatement of the college entrance exam. On my way there, I ran into Ethan. He told me to just go home, that he'd inform the others, but he didn't tell a soul. It wasn't until 1 month before the exam that the others finally found out and scrambled to catch up. In the end, only Ryan met the cutoff score. Sadly, Ethan maliciously reported him, and Ryan was disqualified during political review. Still, he later became a national researcher and made major contributions. His parents were also posthumously cleared of wrongdoing. In my past life, only Ethan got into college. Behind the scenes, he blamed everything on me, and a few of the other city youths, those with connections, began targeting both me and my dad. This time, I would become their benefactor. I leaned in close to Ryan and quietly told him, "You might want to take a look at the college prep books. Good news might be coming soon." He bent down, lowering his voice to thank me. His bare chest muscles were so close to my face, I could feel the heat radiating off him. His masculine scent hit me in the face, dizzying me. Dad really knew how to pick 'em, I thought dazedly. Now that Ryan had enough time to study, I was sure he could perform even better. I planned to use Dad's one and only college slot to recommend him. That should cancel out the background check issues. To finish what I started, I also quietly passed the message to the rest of the city youths. In my last life, Ryan had scored the highest. Ethan was second, but nearly 100 points behind. And that was with Ethan having 5 extra months to study. If the others started preparing early, Ethan wouldn't have the chance to take advantage of them again. Wanting the chance to return to the city youths threw themselves into their studies like their lives depended on it. Meanwhile, Ethan was still stuck in the fantasy of his past life. He didn't study, didn't notice anything odd. He was too busy bragging to everyone in the village about how he was going to be a college student who lived on a government salary. Over time, the villagers actually began to believe him. Using his little tricks, he managed to deceive quite a few young girls who worshipped college students. He coaxed them into sneaking valuables from home to give him, little by little, day after day. I quietly watched. Since it wasn't life-threatening, I didn't step in. After all, when the exam results were announced and they saw he didn't get in, those girls would speak out. Ethan was really making a name for himself in the village. The villagers, most of whom were illiterate, blindly worshipped anyone with an education. Every day, there were farmers volunteering to help Ethan with his chores. Even the matchmaker came by uninvited, saying she wanted to introduce him to the prettiest and wealthiest girl in the whole village. Wherever Ethan went, people treated him with reverence, nodding, bowing, falling over themselves to please him. For a while, he was riding high on fame and praise. "Ethan, when you make it big as a college student, don't forget us poor folks." Thanks to the villagers' support, Ethan was eating meat and delicacies every single day. While the others were studying, he was feasting and goofing off, not touching a single book. The villagers' obsession with educated people had become borderline delusional. Even I started to feel uneasy. If someone like Ethan could get into college in my last life, why couldn't I? I prepared a gift and went to ask Ryan Carter to tutor me. When I got there, he was shirtless again. His strong arms made my blood pressure spike. After hearing why I'd come, he agreed without hesitation. I also asked Dad to buy me a stack of college prep materials. And just like that, I started studying with the other city youths. I was naturally good at liberal arts, but I was completely lost in science. Ryan had a talent for breaking down complex math problems, explaining them so clearly that even I could follow. I was exhausted every day, but I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Meanwhile, Ethan was the most sought-after man in the village, and Emily couldn't sit still any longer. She came looking for me. "Madison," she said, "let's work together to get that girl who kicked out. Then we can compete fairly." I shook my head, but Emily thought I was just pretending. "He's going to be a college student, a government official one day." She insisted. I shrugged and gave her a suggestion. "If you want results, let people see your relationship firsthand. That works better than words." She seemed to have an epiphany and walked away, but before she left, her eyes drifted toward the college prep books beside me, and she secretly slipped one into her sleeve. I didn't realize what had happened until the next day, when I noticed that Ryan's handwritten math notes, made especially for me, were missing. At first, I didn't think much of it. But a few days later, rumors started spreading in the village. They said I was sneaking into the youth dorms to sleep with Ryan. Even worse, some claimed Ryan was selling his body to boost his chances of getting into college. It was obvious who started those lies. I kicked open Ethan's door and dragged him out to the village gate, confronting him in front of the entire crowd. Everyone came to watch the drama unfold. I handed out the practice problems and study notes I'd worked on these past few days. "I, Madison Taylor, have dreams too. I want to go to college. Some jealous lowlife can't stand seeing someone else improve. I wonder who that could be." Ethan flushed deep red. He hadn't realized I'd been reborn, still believing this second chance was a gift from the heavens meant only for him. In his mind, he was in complete control. He sneered. "You, a village girl, you think you can go to college? Keep dreaming. Someone like you is meant to rot in the dirt your whole life." He didn't notice how the villagers' eyes were starting to change, their expressions growing cold. I pushed just a little harder, and Ethan took the bait. He roared so loud his voice cracked. "I'll say it here and now, in this whole village, including the city folks, only I'll pass the college exam. If you get in, I'll eat every pile of manure in this village clean, but if you don't, you'll kneel and give me 100 kowtows." From that day forward, I pushed myself even harder. I studied until I could fall asleep standing up. The villagers mocked me, saying I was delusional. "Dragons give birth to dragons, phoenixes give birth to phoenixes. You're just a dirt girl, peace," they'd say, using the nickname I once had. "You should stop dreaming and just use your looks to snag Ethan. Be his wife, beg for mercy in bed, and you won't lose face." I gritted my teeth and refused to give in. Luckily, Ryan was always there behind me, supporting me every step of the way. The day of the exam results finally arrived. The mailman came running into the village, waving his arms excitedly. "Good news. 4 people from our village got into college, and one of them is even the top scorer in the entire province." He called out 2 names first, then paused. The remaining 2 names hadn't been revealed yet. Every pair of eyes in the village locked onto the mailman, waiting breathlessly. Ethan Sullivan shoved aside Ryan Carter and me, puffed out his chest, and boldly snatched the last 2 acceptance letters from the mailman's hands. So sorry, everyone, he said smugly. Looks like I accidentally became the top scorer. Just as he finished speaking, the mailman shouted, "Congratulations to Madison Taylor, our national top scorer, and congratulations to Ryan Carter, top scorer in the province." The entire moment played out like a scene from a drama. Ethan's hand froze in midair, awkward and pathetic. The crowd erupted. Wasn't Ethan the one bragging nonstop every day? Turns out he didn't even pass. What a disgrace. Furious, Ethan grabbed my acceptance letter from my hand and tore it to shreds. "You stole my college spot," he shouted to everyone. "Madison used her father's position as village chief to take what was mine. Just because I turned down her advances, she ruined my future." I laughed in disbelief. "Wow, you really think you're that desirable, huh? Sorry, but I'm not a dog, and you're definitely not a prize." I slapped Ethan so hard he staggered sideways. But even then, he refused to see the truth. "Of course you did well. You've got connections. Sleep with the right people and everything falls into your lap." He barked. "I'm going to report you. You used your father's power to steal someone else's exam results and college spot." Ethan's dramatic accusation made a few people hesitate. Maybe, just maybe, he was telling the truth. That's when someone asked quietly, "But, do any of you even understand how the college entrance exam works?" No one had time to answer. Several red-flagged government cars pulled up outside the village. Out stepped a group of well-dressed officials from the city. They had come to personally congratulate the national and provincial top scorers and to present awards. But instead of a happy ceremony, they walked straight into Ethan's performance. Seeing the powerful presence of the officials, Ethan's arrogance quickly faded. But having lived a life of undeserved success in the past, he still clung to his delusions. After hesitating for just a few seconds, he ran up, threw himself at one official's leg, and wailed loudly, "Sir, you have to help me. They're abusing their power, trampling the rights of us commoners. Do we city youth not deserve basic fairness? Are we not human?" It was a sensitive accusation, and the nearby journalists quickly turned their cameras from us to the officials and Ethan. Originally, they had come to report on the top scorers, but a scandal about exam result tampering, that was a headline. The officials had no choice but to act immediately. One of them ordered, "Pull up the complete exam scores and test papers for all 3 students. I want them here in 10 minutes. That's when we realized they were from the Department of Education. The whole village waited, holding its breath, dying to know which of us had actually gotten into college. My dad was sweating bullets, afraid it would turn out I didn't make it after all. Even I clenched my fists, nervous despite believing in my results. Only Ethan looked confident, taunting us with every breath. "If you admit it now," he said with a smug smile, "maybe I'll be merciful and won't have you thrown in jail. Come on, beg me." He even started accusing us in front of the officials. "Sir, you have to make them pay. These 2 have been hooking up, living together like animals. They disgrace the name of education." Just then, the staff arrived with our sealed test papers. Ethan spotted the faint imprint of a 6 on the front and nearly jumped out of his skin with joy. "I scored over 600, he shouted. "I'm the real provincial top scorer. Look, everyone, proof." The villagers began casting suspicious looks at Ryan and me. Ethan was already hopping up and down, ready to shake hands with the officials. But the lead official completely ignored him. Instead, he walked straight up to Ryan and me, raised our hands high and announced, "These 2 students earned their results fair and square. They passed with their own ability. No tampering. No cheating." Smack. That was the sound of Ethan's heart breaking. Only then did the villagers believe us. That Ryan and I were truly capable. That Ethan was nothing but an arrogant fraud full of hot air. My dad also finally shook off the accusation of corruption. He had proven he hadn't pulled any strings for me or Ryan during the college entrance exams. Our scores were all the proof anyone needed. By this point, Ethan Sullivan had completely lost his mind. He refused to accept the truth. Ripping out a handful of his own hair, he pointed at the officials with a wild look in his eyes. "Even you were bribed by that bitch. What did she do? Pay you? Sleep with you? I'll report this. I'll report it all the way to the top. No way the government would protect garbage like you. You think you can ruin the future of a national talent like me? I'll get you fired." The official had had enough. He'd tried to preserve Ethan's dignity, but since Ethan didn't want it, he'd gladly let him embarrass himself. "Take a good look," the official said, holding up the score sheet. "Ethan Sullivan scored 69, not 600. There was a moment of stunned silence, then the crowd burst into laughter. "Oh my God," someone cackled. "He didn't even score as high as Ryan's lowest mark. And he had the nerve to call himself a top scorer? Someone give this guy a pillow. He needs to go back to sleep and keep dreaming." The villagers, who had long been fed up with Ethan's arrogance, started mocking him openly. Even the once diplomatic official lost his composure. "I honestly don't know where you got the confidence to accuse anyone of stealing your test results. Have you no shame?" Ethan turned beet red. He tried to slink away, head down, tail tucked between his legs. But just then, the most hot-tempered family in the village showed up. The butcher's clan. The butcher wasted no time. "What happened to this bastard?" he asked. When someone told him, he grabbed Ethan by the collar and dragged him forward. Without another word, he punched Ethan square in the face, knocking out 2 front teeth. "You're the one who tricked my daughter into stealing money from our house." I covered my mouth to stifle a laugh. Now the real show was beginning. People can lie, but the heavens always see. Ethan's karma had finally arrived. Ethan didn't dare admit to theft. He knew stealing could land him in prison. And he still wanted to go to college. He refused to confess, just kept yelling for the police. "Arrest him," he shouted through broken teeth. "He hit me. Assault is a crime. We've got government officials watching. Are you really gonna let him get away with this?" But his speech came out garbled, thanks to the missing teeth, drawing more laughter from the crowd. The butcher wasn't having it. He didn't care who was watching. Even when people tried to pull him back, he shoved them aside and kept punching, blow after blow. Ethan's face was swollen and crooked in no time. He screamed for help, but the villagers all took a step back in perfect harmony, pretending they saw nothing. Finally, overwhelmed by the beating, Ethan broke down. "I'm sorry, man. I shouldn't have tricked your daughter into stealing. It was all my fault. I'll pay it back, I swear. Please stop hitting me." The butcher threw Ethan to the ground like a dead pig, then called for his daughter. The girl came forward and tearfully told everyone how Ethan had seduced her and persuaded her to steal valuables from home to give to him. The officials rubbed their temples in frustration. They'd assumed Ethan was just a sore loser, mentally unraveling after flunking the exam. They hadn't expected theft, but Ethan was a city youth, a sent-down, educated youth. He might still have value to the country's development. Perhaps it'd be better to let them settle things privately. Just as the official was about to let Ethan off with a warning, another villager stepped forward. "No wonder we've been missing so many eggs lately," the man said. "My daughter Lily kept saying she didn't know where they went." At first, Lily refused to talk. But after a few slaps from her father, she finally burst into tears and pointed straight at Ethan. That was the tipping point. More villagers came forward, suspecting Ethan had been stealing from them too. Dozens of accusations flew. "This is outrageous. How dare he steal from all of us? Theft is a crime. Does he think he's above the law?" It just so happened that the government was cracking down hard on rural theft this season. The official didn't hesitate this time. He waved his hand. "Take Ethan Sullivan into custody. Bring him in for a full investigation. In my past life, Ryan Carter had clearly earned his spot at college based on merit. But Ethan had been jealous that Ryan scored higher, so he secretly wrote a letter accusing Ryan of having questionable political beliefs and moral conduct. The officials hadn't wanted to waste such an outstanding student, so they formed a special team to investigate Ryan. But Ethan had bribed several city youths and a handful of villagers to give false testimonies. They claimed Ryan was promiscuous, that he slacked off and refused to work. Back in my past life, Ryan Carter lost his opportunity to go to college because of Ethan Sullivan's jealousy and sabotage. But this time around, with Ethan dragged off to the police station, he never even got the chance to interfere. Everything was finally heading in the right direction. The moment Ryan received his acceptance letter, he ran straight to my house, holding the letter high over his head for me to see. As I looked at it, I couldn't help thinking about our past life, how I had been killed by someone who shared my bed, and how Ryan had been falsely accused and lost his chance at a better future. We both died miserable deaths, but this life was different. We had both made our dreams come true. I had gotten into college too. I was no longer an illiterate girl. I could finally support myself. Thinking about how perfect this second chance was, I couldn't hold back my tears. Ryan panicked a little when he saw me crying. Fumbling through his pockets, he pulled out a handkerchief and gently wiped away my tears. "Don't cry," he said softly. "It hurts me to see you like this." As soon as the words left his mouth, he seemed to realize what he'd said. His ears turned beet red, and I was too embarrassed to say anything back. But through all the days we spent studying together, fighting toward the same goal, Ryan and I had naturally grown closer. I had come to admire not only his quiet strength, but the tenderness he kept hidden behind that tough exterior. Still, neither of us said anything. We just buried ourselves deeper in our studies. Then, after thinking it over for a moment, Ryan took a step back, dropped to one knee and said, "Madison, I like you. I want to marry you. I swear, I'll treat you well for the rest of my life." He slowly pulled out a green jade bracelet, shimmering under the sunlight. "This is a family heirloom from the Carter family, passed down for generations. It's meant for our daughter-in-law. Will you wear it?" His voice trembled by the end, and so did his hands. I covered my mouth and cried uncontrollably. "Yes," I said through the tears. Ryan went out to buy liquor and tea, then formally visited my dad to ask for my hand. My dad had liked him from the very first time they met and thought the world of this marriage. He only had one request. Before Ryan and I left for college, we needed to hold a proper wedding celebration in the village and invite everyone. Ryan agreed immediately. We threw ourselves into preparations, planning the wedding, packing for college. It was non-stop chaos. Somewhere in the midst of it all, we stopped thinking about Ethan entirely. But to our surprise, he wasn't locked up for years like we'd hoped. After just 4 days at the police station, he was released. Not only that, he had the nerve to show up at my house acting all smug, saying he wanted to get back together. I was stunned. How could someone be this shameless? When I opened the door and saw it was Ethan, I was about to slam it shut. But he jammed his knee into the doorway and started pouring out some ridiculous, never-ending speech about how much he still loved me. I told him I was engaged and not to disgust me with his pathetic performance. But Ethan was convinced I was just playing hard to get. "I know you're only pretending to be close to Ryan to make me jealous," he said. "But now that I'm back, you can toss that fake out. I get it now. I only left you because I was confused. You're the one who's always treated me best." Then, licking his lips like the slime ball he was, he dared to propose a deal. "Let's start over," he said. "You give up your college spot and stay home to help me study for next year's exam." What a joke. He wanted to live off me and actually thought he was being generous about it. He couldn't even get into college himself and still wanted to drag me down with him, keep me from learning, from becoming someone better. Seeing the look of contempt on my face, he quickly added, "If I get into college next year, you'll enjoy the good life too. And if I betray you, I swear I'll die a horrible death, get hit by a car right outside." I gave a cold laugh. "Great. I hope the car gets you then. Better that than seeing you cozy up with my cousin again." If his promises were worth believing, pigs could fly. I grabbed the iron shovel, leaning against the wall, and swung it hard at his ankle. With a blood-curdling scream, he finally yanked his leg back. I seized the chance and slammed the door in his face. But he still wouldn't give up. He knelt right there outside the door, begging for forgiveness, swearing he wouldn't leave unless I came out and spoke to him. Luckily, that was when Ryan came back from the market. When Ryan saw Ethan Sullivan sneaking around outside the door, he didn't say a word, just aimed a solid punch straight to Ethan's face. Ethan had been planning to puff up his chest and assert his manly authority, maybe even challenge Ryan to a fight. But after just one hit, he ended up with a swollen, bruised face and a dislocated arm. He had no choice but to flee in shame. Even while limping away, he turned back and spat out one last bitter remark. "Ryan is just a pawn you're using to provoke me. The only person she truly loves is me. Just wait, she'll leave you." Then he tripped over a rock and fell flat on his face. Emily, my cousin, had to help him up as he staggered away, dragging his injured leg. Last time, Emily had secretly drugged Ethan with an aphrodisiac. The two of them were caught in bed in front of half the village, so everyone basically accepted that they were a couple. They'd started living together afterward. Emily had actually already given up on Ethan once and was set to marry a wealthy old man. But after hitting her head in an accident, she suddenly decided Ethan was her one true love. Ever since then, she'd been insisting she was destined to become the official wife of a college student. Even when Ethan got arrested and taken to the police station, she still believed he would succeed, never leaving his side. Yet despite her devotion, Ethan still shamelessly came crawling back to me. Before long, it was the day of our wedding. Ryan and I dressed in our red formal outfits, walking from table to table toasting our guests. Everyone was smiling and cheerful, until that lunatic Ethan showed up again. He came running in, dressed like a groom himself, in a brand new bright red suit. Then in front of everyone, he dropped to one knee in front of me. "Madison," he cried, "I know you're just trying to get back at me, to make me jealous, and you succeeded. I finally realized how much I love you. Let's run away together." The villagers all put down their chopsticks and turned to watch the drama unfold. I was absolutely livid and told Ryan not to hold back. Kick him out. But Ethan clung to a tree like his life depended on it, face already swollen and battered, still screaming his love for me like a madman. Emily finally couldn't take it anymore. She had fought so hard to keep this man by her side, and now he was throwing himself at me like a dog. She rushed forward to stop him. Ethan shoved her aside without thinking. She fell hard and blood began pooling beneath her. She had miscarried. Ryan lost it. With fury in his eyes, he beat Ethan within an inch of his life and threw him out for good. Despite the chaos, our wedding continued as planned. Afterward, Ryan and I moved to the capital to attend university. With the memories of our past lives, we quickly seized every opportunity, climbing higher and higher together. A few years later, my father retired. Ryan and I returned to the village for an ancestral memorial, then brought Dad back to the city with us so he could enjoy a comfortable life. That's when we happened to run into Ethan and Emily again. After her miscarriage, Emily's parents married her off to a widowed government official who had already beaten 3 wives to death. She gave birth to 3 daughters, and one night, drunk and furious, her husband beat her so badly she ended up paralyzed. As for Ethan, he spent his days drinking, still claiming he was a college student. One night, drunk out of his mind, he passed out in the middle of the road. A car ran him over, and both his legs were amputated. Now he survives by begging on the street, a complete madman. And as for Ryan and me, we're wealthy beyond measure, living a life full of happiness,